ExamPrep.School, Indiana Independent Insurance Adjuster Exam. There are 4 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Indiana laws and department rules common to all lines. Personal lines regulations. Workers' compensation insurance and employer's liability case-related issues. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Which of the following is a primary responsibility of the Indiana Department of Insurance in its market oversight function? A. Approving midterm premium adjustments proposed by insurers. B. Conducting solvency surveillance and periodic financial examinations of insurers. C. Establishing minimum coverage limits for all insurance policies. D. Resolving individual policyholder claim disputes. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is conducting solvency surveillance and periodic financial examinations, which is a key market oversight function to ensure insurer financial health. Reason A is not correct. Approving midterm premium adjustments is done by insurers under filed rates, not by the department. Reason C is not correct. Minimum coverage limits are set by statute, not through the department's routine market oversight. Reason D is not correct. Individual claim disputes are resolved through administrative or judicial processes, not via market oversight. Question 2. Under Indiana law, what best describes the Commissioner's authority when issuing administrative bulletins? A. They carry the full force and effect of law once published without further approval. B. They provide non-binding interpretive guidance pending formal rulemaking. C. They must be ratified by the legislature before becoming effective. D. They can override conflicting statutory provisions. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that administrative bulletins serve as non-binding interpretive guidance until formal rules are adopted under the APA. Reason A is not correct. Bulletins do not carry the full force of law without formal rulemaking. Reason C is not correct. Legislative ratification is not required for department bulletins. Reason D is not correct. Bulletins cannot override statutes. They interpret existing law. Question 3. What is the primary purpose of an insurer examination conducted by the Indiana Department of Insurance? A. To adjudicate consumer complaints on individual claims. B. To verify compliance with insurance laws and assess financial solvency. C. To set premium rates for high-risk policies. D. To audit claim payments for accuracy to policyholders. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is verifying compliance with statutes and assessing financial solvency, which is the core objective of insurer examinations. Reason A is not correct. Individual complaint adjudication occurs through hearings, not routine exams. Reason C is not correct. Rate setting is performed via filings, not through financial exams. Reason D is not correct. Auditing claim payments may occur, but the main exam purpose is overall solvency and compliance. Question 4. During a complaint investigation, which investigatory power does the Indiana Department of Insurance expressly hold? A. To issue subpoenas for witness testimony and documents without a court order. B. To freeze insurer assets pending resolution of the complaint. C. To unilaterally impose civil penalties before hearing. D. To arbitrate disputes between insureds and insurers. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is the department's statutory authority to issue subpoenas for testimony and documents without needing court intervention. Reason B is not correct. Asset freezes require a court injunction, not department authority. Reason C is not correct. Penalties require due process and a hearing before imposition. Reason D is not correct. Arbitration is voluntary. The department cannot force arbitration. Question 5. Under Indiana regulations, insurers are required to retain policy and claim records for a minimum of how many years after final settlement? A. 3 years. B. 5 years. C. 7 years. D. 10 years. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is 5 years, which is the statutory minimum retention period for policy and claim files after final settlement. Reason A is not correct. 3 years is below the statutory minimum retention period. Reason C is not correct. 7 years exceeds the required minimum in Indiana. Reason D is not correct. 10 years is longer than the mandated retention requirement. Question 6. Which of the following is an administrative action that the Indiana Department of Insurance Commissioner may take against a non-compliant insurer? A. Suspend or revoke the insurer's certificate of authority. B. Mandate that the insurer indemnify policyholders directly. C. Settle outstanding claims on behalf of policyholders. D. Appoint a new board of directors for the insurer. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that the commissioner can suspend or revoke an insurer's certificate of authority when statutory or regulatory violations occur. Reason B is not correct. The commissioner cannot require direct indemnification. That is the insurer's role. Reason C is not correct. Claim settlement remains the insurer's responsibility, not the department's. Reason D is not correct. Board appointments are corporate governance matters beyond department authority. Question 7. During a regulatory inquiry, what authority does the Indiana Department of Insurance have to request documents from licensees? A. Compel production of all relevant books and records upon written request. B. Obtain records only after securing a court-issued subpoena. C. Receive records voluntarily but cannot enforce production. D. Request only financial statements, not claims records. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that the department can compel production of all relevant books and records by written request under its statutory authority. Reason B is not correct. A court subpoena is not required for regulatory inquiries. Reason C is not correct. Production is enforceable. Licensees cannot withhold requested records. Reason D is not correct. The authority extends beyond financial statements to all relevant records. Question 8. Which statement best distinguishes Indiana DOI oversight of insurance producers versus independent adjusters? A. Producers must complete line-specific continuing education, while adjusters require adjuster-specific topics. B. Adjusters must post a surety bond, while producers are exempt from bonding. C. Producers cannot receive unearned premiums, while adjusters handle claim funds. D. Adjusters are subject to complaint investigations, but producers are not. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that producers complete line-specific CE, whereas adjusters must complete continuing education focused on adjusting topics. Reason B is not correct. Both producers and adjusters may be subject to bonding requirements in certain lines. Reason C is not correct. Producers can hold unearned premiums subject to regulation, and adjusters handle claim payments only. Reason D is not correct. Both producers and adjusters are subject to complaint investigations. Question 9. An independent adjuster receives notice from the Indiana Department of Insurance that the department's Consumer Services Division received a consumer complaint alleging delays in claim communications. Under DOI procedures for handling consumer inquiries through DOI channels, within how many days must the adjuster submit a written response to the department? A. 10 calendar days. B. 30 calendar days? C. 20 business days? D. 15 business days? The correct answer is D. This option is correct because the Indiana DOI requires a written response to consumer inquiries within 15 business days, counting only business days rather than calendar days. Reason A is not correct. Responding in calendar days overlooks DOI's requirement to measure the deadline in business days and is shorter than prescribed. Reason B is not correct. A 30-day calendar window is significantly longer than the DOI's prescribed business day requirement. Reason C is not correct. Allowing 20 business days exceeds the DOI's maximum response time frame, which is set at 15 business days. Question 10. During a market conduct examination, the Indiana Department of Insurance identifies that an independent adjuster has repeatedly failed to investigate claims within the required statutory timeframe. Under DOI authority to enforce compliance, what measure may the department require the adjuster to submit to address these deficiencies? A. A corrective action plan. B. A cease and desist order. C. A license suspension notice. D. A restitution payment schedule. The correct answer is A. This option is correct because DOI may mandate a corrective action plan to ensure that the adjuster implements procedures correcting identified compliance deficiencies. Reason B is not correct. Issuing a cease and desist order restricts activity but does not provide a structured remediation plan. Reason C is not correct. License suspension is a punitive sanction and not the initial enforcement tool for remediating process failures. Reason D is not correct. Restitution schedules address consumer loss compensation rather than procedural compliance corrections. Question 11. An independent adjuster is offered a consent order by the Indiana Department of Insurance following allegations of unfair claim settlement practices. Which statement accurately describes the regulatory use of consent orders by the department in enforcement actions? A. They require an admission of wrongdoing as part of the settlement. B. They cannot impose monetary penalties on the licensee. C. They must be submitted for approval by the Indiana General Assembly. D. They take effect when signed by both the licensee and the DOI director. The correct answer is D. This option is correct because Indiana DOI consent orders become enforceable when the licensee and the DOI director execute the agreement, without legislative approval or required admission of guilt. Reason A is not correct. Consent orders do not require the licensee to admit wrongdoing. They resolve matters without formal admissions. Reason B is not correct. Consent orders may include monetary penalties as part of negotiated enforcement terms. Reason C is not correct. Legislative approval is not part of the DOI's consent order process. Question 12. An independent adjuster is served with an administrative subpoena by the Indiana Department of Insurance, requiring production of claim files and sworn testimony. The adjuster fails to comply. Under Indiana law, what consequence is most likely to apply? A. Immediate license suspension without a hearing. B. Imposition of an administrative penalty without judicial involvement. C. A separate administrative hearing solely on the refusal. D. Contempt proceedings initiated in court. The correct answer is D. This option is correct because failure to comply with a DOI administrative subpoena may be enforced through contempt proceedings in court. Reason A is not correct. License suspension without hearing is not the immediate remedy for subpoena noncompliance. Reason B is not correct. Administrative penalties for subpoena refusal require judicial enforcement rather than being imposed solely by the DOI. Reason C is not correct. No separate administrative hearing is required. The matter moves to judicial contempt enforcement. Question 13. Which of the following is a prerequisite to apply for an Indiana Independent Adjuster license? A. Have 2 years of claims experience. B. Hold a bachelor's degree. C. Be at least 18 years old. D. Be a U.S. citizen. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is at least 18 years old because Indiana statutes require adjuster applicants to meet the minimum age requirement without mandating a college degree, previous claims experience, or U.S. citizenship. Reason A is not correct. Prior claims experience is not a prerequisite for applying for the adjuster license. Reason B is not correct. A college degree is not required for initial licensure under Indiana rules. Reason D is not correct. Citizenship is not required. Non-citizens may apply under the standard requirements. Question 14. Which condition must a resident applicant satisfy when applying for an Indiana independent adjuster license? A. Provide proof of Indiana homeownership. B. Maintain a primary place of business in Indiana. C. Reside in Indiana for at least 5 consecutive years. D. Be registered to vote in Indiana. The correct answer is B. Maintaining a primary place of business in Indiana is required for resident adjuster applicants, whereas homeownership, length of residency, or voter registration are not stipulated by statute. Reason A is not correct. Homeownership is not a statutory requirement for residency classification. Reason C is not correct. There is no minimum continuous residency duration required by law. Reason D is not correct. Voter registration status is not part of the licensing rules. Question 15. A non-resident seeking an Indiana independent adjuster license must submit which of the following? A. A certificate of errors and omissions insurance issued in Indiana. B. Proof of holding an equivalent license in the home state. C. An Indiana surety bond signed by a local agent. D. A signature from a resident insurer's authorized officer. The correct answer is B. Non-resident applicants must provide proof of an equivalent adjuster license in their home state. Insurance certificates, bonds, or insurer signatures are not required for initial non-resident licensure. Reason A is not correct. No Indiana-based insurance certificate is mandated for non-resident applications. Reason C is not correct. A state surety bond is not a prerequisite for a non-resident license. Reason D is not correct. No insurer officer signature is needed on the applicant's form. Question 16. Under Indiana's reciprocity provisions, a non-resident individual may obtain an independent adjuster license without examination if the person's home state does which of the following? A. Requires fingerprinting for non-resident applicants. B. Grants reciprocal adjuster licensing to Indiana residents. C. Mandates continuing education for adjusters. D. Charges the same licensing fee as Indiana. The correct answer is B. Reciprocity applies only when the applicant's home state extends independent adjuster licensing privileges to Indiana residents on equivalent terms. Fingerprinting, continuing education, or fee amounts are unrelated to the reciprocity standard. Reason A is not correct. Fingerprinting requirements alone do not trigger reciprocity. Reason C is not correct. Continuing education mandates are separate from licensing reciprocity. Reason D is not correct. Fee parity does not establish reciprocal licensing. Question 17. Which fingerprinting requirement applies to all Indiana independent adjuster license applicants? A. Provide ink fingerprint cards only for prior felony convictions. B. Submit state and federal fingerprints via an approved channel within 30 days. C. Upload a digital fingerprint image on the DOI website. D. Arrange fingerprinting through local law enforcement only. The correct answer is B. All applicants must submit both state and federal fingerprints through an approved channel, such as electronic or FD258, within 30 days of application. The other methods or conditions are not compliant with DOI procedures. Reason A is not correct. Fingerprinting is required for all applicants, not just those with convictions. Reason C is not correct. Digital image uploads are not an accepted method under current rules. Reason D is not correct. Fingerprinting may be done electronically, not solely through law enforcement. Question 18. Which of the following is a common deficiency that causes the DOI to return an Indiana Independent Adjuster license application? A. Providing an expired business address, or B. Failure to disclose educational history. C. Listing an unlicensed insurer. D. Omission of the applicant's signature. The correct answer is D. Applications are frequently returned due to a missing applicant signature. Disclosure of education is not required. Naming an unlicensed insurer is not part of the form, and business addresses remain valid unless changed. Reason A is not correct. Expired addresses must be updated via change notice, not cause return of the initial form. Reason B is not correct. Educational history is not requested on the application form. Reason C is not correct. The form does not require listing insurers at the time of application. Question 19. An applicant is exempt from the Indiana Independent Adjuster examination if the individual has A. Served as a claims manager for 5 years. B. Completed a bachelor's degree in insurance. C. Been appointed by an insurer with an Indiana presence. D. Held a similar license for at least 1 year in a state that reciprocates. The correct answer is D. Examination is waived when the applicant holds a comparable license for at least 1 year in a state that extends reciprocal privileges to Indiana licensees. Academic degrees or managerial roles do not qualify. Reason A is not correct. Professional experience absent a reciprocal license is not sufficient. Reason B is not correct. Academic degrees do not exempt applicants from the licensure exam. Reason C is not correct. An insurer appointment alone does not waive the examination requirement. Question 20. After approval of an Indiana Independent Adjuster application, the Department of Insurance must issue the license within how many days? A. 7 business days. B. 15 calendar days. C. 30 calendar days. D. 60 business days. The correct answer is C. Statutes require the department to issue the license within 30 calendar days of approval. Shorter or longer timeframes are not specified for initial issuance. Reason A is not correct. A 7-day issuance period is too short by statute. Reason B is not correct. 15 days is not the statutory issuance period. Reason D is not correct. 60 business days exceeds the authorized timeframe. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.